Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Dan. And today, as you can see, I'm still talking about um, my Disney movie marathon. Well, whether I'm talking about, their merchandising, theme parks, movies, or whatever. All right, let's get to the point here. I'm going to do my best not to get too repetitive here, so I'm just going to make this fairly short because I've already just did a video discussing this, so this is like an update sort of kind of thing. Yes, this when it comes to the whole Florida thing and the idea trying to strip Disney away from the special program it has to govern its own self, and that's what I'm topic discussing here. Yes, this is still a thing, and this news report is trying to put the heartstrings of the viewer. Is that look how Disney used to be, how it used to be. Again, how it used to be, how it used to be. It used to be about the family. It used to be about for family values. And yes, of course, this is obviously a response to the fact that in Florida, Disney had opposed the idea of, the "Don't Say Gay" bill, which again, yes, I mentioned in the previous video. So yeah, which is mentioned again in this news article thing, video, whatever you want to call it. Uh, in case you think it might be taken out of context, here's a bit of the footage, like right here. This one individual, uh, of course, he had to be a Republican. Of course, he's trying to put heat on Disney, of course, which he hasn't been over the years. Yes, like it was reported, yes, talking about the sexual orientation and the gender identity. Yeah, there you go. Bottom line is that trying to act as if that basically.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
Yep. Doing that ew icky case. So, just to make this entire thing seem more ridiculous, one of the people on this news report thing pretty much believes that Disney itself, the corporation as a whole, will in itself go rogue. Well, here you go, straight from the horse's mouth. Here you go.
Disney's charter allows them to build a nuclear power plant. It allows them to build roads without having to follow Florida Department of Transportation.
Yep, you heard him, folks. Oh no, Disney's scary. Disney's been scary. The corporation of Disney, it's so scary. Like, as if that's an actual possibility. Somehow, in some way. That's a lie. But yeah, of course, they had to do this. Of course. Yeah, and but yeah, let's not talk about the fact that Joe Austin over here, yeah, this guy, uh, he has a mega church. He's wealthy. He's extremely wealthy. And he doesn't pay taxes. His church doesn't anyway. Of course, he made quite a few distasteful remarks when it comes to the LGBT plus community. And the point I'm trying to make here, gee, I want to know what this is really about. I don't see any of these Republicans going after like people like him, Joe Austin. Oh, let's tax the church. Let's tax every church, especially the wealthy churches. So deep down, even though they may say otherwise, they may say, "Oh, it's this, oh, it's that." Deep down, it's about the fact that they, like we said in previous video. Like I said, I'm not trying to be too repetitive here, folks. I'm just getting to the point because, yeah, it's just basically the same thing over again. But they're just trying to get at the fact that at the end of the day, it's about the LGBT community. That's it. Uh, and now Disney is definitely under a lot of heat. I mean, they were the past few years already, but it's just more so and more and then more just because of the fact that, yeah, a lot of employees are actually a part of the LGBT plus community. And yes, a lot of the employees had actually stood up against this bill, the Don't Say Gay bill. And yes, a lot of the supporters of the LGBT community, along with fans who are supportive of Disney, actually stood up with them as well. They stand with us, with signs holding up, they stand with us, Disney stand with us and whatnot, helping Disney out, of course. And yes, of course, to be really well individuals like E.W. Jackson claiming that, Oh, Disney has gone too woke to the culture of the LGBT community. And yes, of course, and that somehow means it's trying to legalize pedophilia and whatnot. Yes, of course, he took an issue with the fact that Disney supports the LGBT community. Well, okay, in his own words, here you go.
And canceled Peter Pan and canceled the Aristocrats and who knows what else they're canceling because apparently these movies no longer fit. They no longer meet the woke standards of racial sensitivity. And I have no idea. I think I've seen Dumbo. I think I saw Dumbo as a kid. Not sure about Peter Pan or the Aristocrats, although Peter Pan does ring a bell. So I think I may have watched Peter Pan as a child. I don't remember anything in Peter Pan that I found offensive or shocking. And, it's as if they are saying that these movies turned our children into racists and sexists and whatever else you can think of. I know I watched Dumbo. I mean, that's the elephant whose ears let him fly, right? And listen, the only thing I remember is the flying part because, I love the idea of flying. No, I don't mean in airplanes, folks. I mean, look, I don't want to be a bird, but oh my goodness, if I could fly, ooh, wow. So now listen, folks. Now don't laugh at me too much, okay? So when I was a kid, I was living in foster care at the time, and I don't know why I was able to do this. I don't know whether my foster parents were outside or what was going on, but I had two friends in the house. It was a little 2-bedroom house. You go up the set of stairs. There's one room on the right side and one bedroom on the left side, and that was it. And I would only be guessing to think how many steps there were. It might have been 20, 25 steps maybe to the second floor. Pretty standard. But so my friends and I were over with playing Superman, and I have it in my mind. I couldn't be more than about 5 or 6 years old, but I've got it in my mind that if you can just get your cape right, get get off to a good start, you can fly just like Superman can fly. So I went up to the top of the steps. I told my friends, look, I said, now I'm going to jump off the top of the steps. And I remember this too, folks. And I'll tell you why in a second. When you say, well, how can you remember that at 5 or 6 years old? I'll tell you why in a second. So I told my friends, I said, now look, and when I jump off, I had my little red cape on, I said, when I come off the steps, I said, I'm going to fly down. I said, open the door, because, the steps came down right between the living room and what you could have called the dining room, but two small rooms on either side. I said, now what you all open the front door, because what I'm going to do when I fly down, I'm going to turn here and I'm going to fly out the door and fly down to the store. Okay. Once I get my start, I'll make the turn at the bottom of the steps, and I want the door open so I can fly straight out and fly. Right? You just say, wait a minute, what kind of kid were you? And so, because I'm just thinking, well, if Superman can do it, I mean, thank God I didn't decide to jump out of a window. I guess there must have been something restraining me. So I got up to the steps, 1, 2, 3, and I jumped. And folks, when I hit the bottom of those steps, my feet hit the ground and my knees came up and hit the bottom of my chin. Didn't knock me out or anything, but it hurt. And I thought, you know what? I don't know what Superman's secret is, but obviously I don't quite have it. So I gave up. I gave up my hopes of flying like Superman. But I'll tell you something, the idea of flying has stayed with me. I see those jet packs on people's backs and I think, wow, man, that's got to be great. If I go on vacation, they've got that, what do they call that? A sky, where they put the kite on your back, and the boat takes off, and your kite gets caught in the wind, and then you fly up. Oh man, that is woo! Oh my goodness gracious, And my wife would be sitting in the boat looking at me, going, what is wrong with him? Said, well, listen, I couldn't pull off my Superman act, but I could at least fly this kite for the time being. So I just, I mean, how did I even get off on this stuff? But Disney is apparently getting rid of Dumbo, because Dumbo, the flying elephant. Disney is apparently getting rid of Dumbo. So I don't know what Dumbo did, but apparently Dumbo did something wrong. And Peter Pan, I don't know what he did wrong, but Peter Pan's out. And the Aristocrats, I'm not even familiar with that. I mean, I've heard of it, but I don't really know much about that. But folks, we are living in some strange times, aren't we? With all the problems we are having, this woke culture has just taken people, here again, to me, it is like a cult, isn't it? It really is like a kind of cult. And everybody's trying to prove that they belong in the cult. No matter how crazy the requirements of the cult are, I'm willing to do it because I'm a member of the cult, and I want everybody to recognize me as a member of the cult. And Disney had the nerve to say that they don't lean left or right. Yeah, okay. If you believe that one, I got a bridge in Brooklyn that I'll sell you cheap. They don't lean left or right. Now, folks, Walt Disney, I have to believe. I don't know that much about Walt Disney, but I have to believe the man who created such wonderful, family-oriented entertainment for children would have to be turning over in his grave, if you'll excuse the expression, at what Disney has become. Disney is a moral sewer. It really has become a moral sewer. And I should have seen this. My family and I went on vacation about, oh my goodness, this had to be 20 years ago. Oh yeah, it was probably about 25 years ago. Might have been a little longer than that. And we were there, and walking around Disney and kind of enjoying everything. And we went into this theater. They have those theaters where they show you movies and you see different things. I went in there, and they had somebody talking to the kids. And I looked at that person, wasn't there but a moment. I told my wife, I said, that's a lesbian. My wife looked at me and said, how do you know that? I said, just watch. And you could just tell the effort to act like and sound like a man. It was a woman. The effort to act like and sound like a man, that it was just obvious to me the moment I walked in the theater. And we didn't stay there long because I just thought, okay, I don't know what that's about. Guess who that lesbian was? Ellen DeGeneres. Right. Disney, as I'm sure you all know, has made it apparently now a pattern for hiring convicted pedophiles. No, folks, I'm not making it up. There have been more than one instance. There has been more than one instant in which Disney has hired people, and they caught some flack for it, but they did it anyway. People who are convicted pedophiles, child molesters. One was Victor Salva. He's a convicted child molester. And they hired him to produce one of their.
Of course, it doesn't stop there when he says that gay people and Disney and parents don't go along. You can't be parents.
Somebody reported on something I'd said on this program, and then they got a lot of comments and feedback, and basically, lambasting and excoriating and vilifying me. And it had to do around some comments I made about, gay people or homosexuals trying to get between me and my child to give my child information that they considered appropriate, that I consider objectionable. And I said, that would create a real problem for me and would make me very angry. And I don't regret saying that at all, because I know that it would. But I think any normal parent would be very, very angry. And I think part of the reason why the homosexual community can't relate is that they can't really be parents, not in the normal sense. I mean, they can manipulate and do some kind of weird gyrations of science and so forth to try to manufacture some, children for their own entertainment, I suppose, and their own self-aggrandizement. But they can't really procreate. They cannot procreate, by definition. They cannot procreate, and so I think they don't understand what perhaps a normal parent's response is to somebody trying to, in effect, manipulate, use, inculcate, indoctrinate your child with things that you find to be objectionable, particularly when the person says to you, shut up, you don't have anything to say about it because I know what's best for your child. That's an issue. That's a problem.
Yeah, funny how, they would say this kind of a thing, when in reality, a lot of Christians has said very xenophobic stuff. Again, I'm not trying to be too repetitive here, but I'm just trying to bring a point here, okay? How can they be saying, oh, Disney's doing something bad, or Disney's doing this, or Disney's doing that? How dare they? And the thing is that, side note, being bisexual or whatever else, it's not always about sex, by the way. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay, anyway, I don't know how to be complain about this when they themselves, many of them, not all, but many.
Everybody has to remember Hiroshima and Nagasaki occurred because Harry Truman believed we would lose up to 1 million Americans trying to conquer Japan by conventional means. We'd had a terrible experience at Iwo Jima. We'd had a terrible experience in Okinawa. We knew the Japanese were preparing for suicidal defensive methods. And it was going to be a very, very long, painful fight. I once had the privilege of having dinner with a famous movie star who said that he was an 18-year-old paratrooper, and he was going to be in the first wave landing in Japan. And he never for a second regretted Truman's decision because he thought the odds against his survival were pretty high. So you start down that road and you think about it, and you have to realize that those weapons were used in a context that was designed to save American lives, which goes to the heart of what Trump has done so brilliantly. Trump has put back at the center of American national security and American foreign policy and American trade policy a very simple question. Is it good for America? And if it's not good for America, he doesn't want to do it. Well, the Obamas and the Clintons are surrounded by people, and to some extent, frankly, the Republican establishment are surrounded by people who always explain to us why we have to give up our advantages in order to placate somebody or please somebody or hold together the UN or meet some agreement in Paris, all of it to our disadvantage. And I think what Trump is saying is, wait a second, those policies may have once made sense when we were 50% of the world's economy. They were recovering from World War II, and we had enormous surplus of power and resources. They don't make any sense now. And I think that's exactly right.
So, yes, of course, Christians can be extremely xenophobic. Again, it's just going back to what I was trying to say a few moments ago. Just do something out of fear. Oh, the Japanese going to nuke Christians. Basically, what happened like in World War II, but just do it to Christians. And of course, going to pick Obama because he's a Democrat, of course. And it doesn't make any sense at all. It's just a fear tactic and whatnot. And yes, of course, Disney would have of the Japanese working there, the theme parks or whatever else you can think of at times. And speaking of this whole Florida thing, I want to add real quick is that another thing before we go to I think so. Yeah, I just want to add this bit right here real quick is that when it comes to of course, if under this legislation, which if they actually want to really push forward, which says that this move will take effect next year in 2023. The legislature's actions is in response to when it comes to Disney's when it comes to the Parental Rights and Education Act, and of course the governor or the Republican signed into law the measure which criticized the term that don't say gay bill, which goes of course those pensions that limit instruction about gender identity and sexual orientation through kindergarten. And yes, it started from that, but then it pressed forward. If anything, they're really attempting to oppress the rights of the LGBT plus community and just disguise it as something else. when in reality, like I was saying, it's not really about Disney becoming a rogue state, like I was mentioning earlier. In reality, it's about that. They don't want the LGBT plus community and their supporters to obtain any kind of political power. And since Disney is definitely one of the most well known brands in the world, they know that Disney itself, the corporate company, has a lot of influence, a lot of households, of course, when you think about it. And when we get down to that, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to limit the influence of the Walt Disney, of course, the theme parks. They're trying to make it as small as possible, even if they don't eliminate Walt Disney as a whole. If anything, trying to minimize what they can and can't do when it comes to politics, governments, and whatnot. Um, yeah, even if it's symbolic in one way or another, I guess. And again, when it comes to the LGBT plus, it's not always about sex. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having sex, sure, as long as you're of age. People can be addicted to sex regardless of your sexual orientation, of course. But in hindsight, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with being a part of the community in one way or another, like at all. So, what does any of this have to do with anything when you think about it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. If you support the community in any shape or form, or if you're part of it in any shape or form, they're just trying to circumvent the LGBT plus rights in numerous ways, whatever way you can find it, just to do it. They don't want, of course, to do that because they're against family apparently. Oh yeah, the LGBT plus community can't be a part of the household or whatever because of sex or whatever. This seems odd. The CEO of Disney and the executive who works there has been taking criticism in recent months with the shareholders and whatnot. Um, but a lot of people were claiming that Disney was being silent when it comes to the opposing side, when it comes to the don't say gay bill in Florida, but when in reality, they actually said something against it. They actually Disney themselves, the company, actually said something against that bill. So people were criticizing it because Disney's not saying anything. When in reality, they have. And of course, I mentioned this in a separate video, of course. So again, I'm really trying to attempt not to be too repetitive. Like we were saying earlier, folks, I'm really attempting not to be too repetitive. So that the response is actually, as I mentioned in a separate video. But like I said, yeah, this sounds familiar. Yeah, don't allow the LGBT community be in their households, be in their neighbors. This sounds oddly familiar. This right here, which I'll get into in just a moment, folks. This right here, when it comes to Japanese, I'll get more into it in just a moment. And I just thought I'll just point out how a lot of this is really inconsistent, is what I'm getting at. It's odd. It's really weird that people would act like this. Why in this day and age? I mean, really? Yeah. To make these individuals, the Christians, I mean, to be more hypocritical back in the 1890s, I believe. Yeah, 18, yeah. Uh, they don't want any foreigners to be a part of whatever land they're a part of because apparently, at the very least, at least a very limited extent, be part of whatever land they might be governing because apparently any foreigner might bring a bad influence to their society somehow, which of course, like I said, is incredibly xenophobic, which it is. You can do your own research if you want to. Again, I'm not going to go into specifics here because this will make the video a lot longer than what it is. I know it's come out like a history lesson to some extent because was not the only time that a lot of religious people had done this kind of thing. Because case in point, look at what the Spanish Empire had done because they heavily invested themselves into in Catholicism. Because yes, the Spanish Empire had actually enslaved uh, people from Mexico, people from the Philippines, people from Cuba, and yes, people from Africa, just to name a few. Because, yep, you guessed it, because God said so. The Confederate Army did the same thing with people of Africa, and again, yes, even the KKK did the same thing because, hey, God said so, and that was perfectly okay. But yeah, just again, just to bring you a few instances here, folks. So, how can they be saying that Disney's doing this and that wrong, But when they refuse to look at themselves, and if they actually do, they try to brush it off. Oh, it's just those Christians that are bad. If you're willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, why can't you give the same luxury to the LGBT community? I mean, yes, there are some LGBT community who are in fact criminals. That's not a lie. But why can't you give them the same benefit of the doubt? Just because there's some few bad eggs in a group, that doesn't mean they're all going to be the same way. I guess to go to the point more faster and to support what I'm saying here, look at former President Roosevelt. Um, to be more specific, yeah, he was one of the most well known and most well liked when it comes to the American presidents. And yes, he believed that if you're Christian, you're great in his eyes, which is a lie. And he put the Japanese in these camps, which of course is bad. And and of course, there was the whole attitude of anti-Japanese during World War II. I'm not saying all Americans were like this, obviously. Some of them were actually against this kind of behavior, of course. And to be perfectly clear, folks, I don't think every politician is evil, okay? And also, I don't hate the United States, just attempting to point out the inconsistencies with all this. That is it. And just that's okay, folks. And yes, I've criticized Disney before, but for completely different reasons, obviously. But and again, to be perfectly clear, again, before anyone gets my case, when it comes to the what I was saying a moment ago, when it comes to oh, only Christians should be all great, only Christians can be loving, and all that. I mean, only Christians should be in power. I was referring to, yeah, to be more clear, it was this guy that said this kind of a thing. This American president, it was this guy who felt that only Christians can be the only group of people that can be deemed trustworthy, and absolutely positively no one else. And I mean, of course, that's not to shine away any criticism towards this individual as well, because with the whole concentration camp thing with the Japanese, because out of fear of Japanese spies and whatnot, like some sort of what do you call that, conspiracy theory kind of a thing. Like as if they're trying to do like an inside job or whatever. And oh yeah, just put all of them in concentration camps. Go ahead, do that. Just because they might agree with the government saying at the time. Come on, you know who else did that kind of a thing to the Jewish people? Gee, I wonder who else had that same kind of mentality. And you want to know what all these three individuals have in common? They all claim to believe in God. Yes, yes, even this guy. Included himself to be. He included himself. Considered himself, I should say, to be a Catholic. Gee, I wonder if there's some sort of connection here. Come on. Anyway. But yeah, that's the thing, folks. This kind of thing was actually, you know, actually was supportive, of course, during a certain period of time. And yes, because again, God said so. Hey, God said to do this. God to God said it was the righteous way. So I think I brought my point up. I could go more in detail with this kind of awful behavior, but like I said, this video is already getting fairly lengthy as it is. So I'm gonna save it for some other time if I feel like it. I guess we'll see how things go. But yeah, just this is just ridiculous. It really is. Going after Disney over something that okay. It's all about trying to decrease their influence when you think about it. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching and take care. Until next time, see ya. Oh yeah.